I did it. I finally convinced my Elgato to capture VGA footage. Do you have any idea how much of a headache it was to get to this point? The bloody thing is so picky with resolutions. Any sort of Dreamcast related video has been delayed for years as I've struggled with VGA capture. Composite just doesn't cut it when you know how much better it can be. The crux of my solution was, of course, an OSSC. Basically the hardware version of VLC. The Elgato refuses to recognize 480i, but with the Elgato I can convert the sampling to 480p, and that makes the Elgato a happy chappy. Today, I'm reviewing a fun, simple puzzle game to test the waters with VGA capture. Much like it's a test game for me, it was very much the same for the folks at Sega Team. Released at the tail end of 1999, ChuChu Rocket was developed as a testbed for the Dreamcast's processing power because the developers wanted to see how many characters they could cram on screen at once. But more notably, it was the Dreamcast's very first game with online capabilities. Reportedly, what the developers learned from creating and experimenting with the online mode in ChuChu Rocket was later incorporated into the wildly popular Phantasy Star Online. Anyway, let me easily and efficiently demonstrate how ChuChu Rocket plays by showing you the original television commercial. Oi, roll the tape.
チューチューロケットネズミを助けろチューチューロケット猫は怖いチューチューロケットすごいズババババー
ガバアクションパズルチューチューロケット2800円安い Dreamcast!
There was a huge international campaign to get Dreamcast gamers online, and probably the most year 2000 thing I've read all week, those in North America could play a shockwave-powered 30-stage demo on Sega's website. But meanwhile, over the pond, UK gamers were treated to the game for free if they signed up to Dream Arena. I'm not sure what Australians were offered as an incentive, however. As per usual, we're probably just told to go fuck. The story, exists. So there's a spaceport filled with space mice called ChuChus. They dislike ChuChus, which are space cats. Get the drift? One day, the spaceport gets invaded by ChuChus, prompting the ChuChus to nope the heck out of there. The ChuChus must now escape by rocket, and it's your goal to direct them. There's a handful of different modes, but the essence of the gameplay is shared between all and is based on a 2D playing field. Not all levels incorporate all elements, but besides from the ChuChus and ChuChus, you might find walls, black holes, and escape rockets. To navigate the ChuChus around obstacles and to safety, directional arrows are placed on the playing field's grid to dictate their route. ChuChus can't be controlled directly either, but they will mindlessly walk in one direction on the board until they hit a wall and turn right, although they will of course turn left if that's not possible. This is more or less the same with the ChuChus, but they have the advantage of moving quicker. If a ChuChu collides with a ChuChu, then it's their lucky day. The poor ChuChu will get devoured, and depending on the game mode, will trigger a game over. If they walk into a black hole though, they get sucked into the vast, unforgiving vacuum of space. In the case of the ChuChu, this can also mean a game over. Additionally, ChuChus will also delete arrows if they hit them more than once. Rules making sense? The puzzle mode is the real meat of the single player in ChuChu Rocket. A more curated experience and the frenzy of the other modes, you're given a set number of arrows per level to solve the puzzles. However, if a single ChuChu gets eaten or sucked into a black hole, the level is over. Same if a ChuChu makes its way into a rocket. These levels must be completed perfectly to progress, but on the plus side, there are no time limits applying pressure. You can solve them at your own pace. There's a lot of these puzzles too, more than I was expecting. I spent most of my overall playtime in this mode. And if you want to try your hand at creating mind-bending conundrums, there's also a puzzle edit mode. Here, you have full access to create puzzle boards using all the elements from the official mode. You can save up to 25 levels on a VMU, and even upload them to the now defunct official servers, but more on that later in the video. Stage Challenge is, for the most part, another single-player targeted mode, although it can be played with friends if you have them. Unlike the puzzle mode, these challenges are timed and make you feel the pressure. But on the plus side, you can choose any arrow you wish, although only 3 can be on the board at a time, with the 4th deleting the first, and so on. In Get Mice, the goal is to lead the large-eared scoundrels to a rocket within 30 seconds. Run Away is much the same, although it introduces ChuChus to the play area. Lunchtime turns the tables, with the goal being to feed as many mice into the cat's gob as possible within the time limit. That's a bit sadistic. 100 mice has, you guessed it, 100 ChuChus that need to be collected, while lastly, Cat Soccer is purely Capu based with a goal to blast as many of the critters as possible. These 5 concepts apply over and over, with the levels increasing in difficulty. Straightforward stuff. While we've mainly focused on linear, repeatable puzzles so far, the real playability is in the multiplayer mode. Up to 4 players can play individually or in a team, and the gameplay is nothing short of hectic. In fact, hectic doesn't even begin to describe it. Give me a second to check my thesaurus. Frantic, chaotic, feverish. Nice one, dictionary.com. Fortunately, other players can be computer controlled, which is handy if you're a loser like me. The overarching goal of saving the ChuChus and directing them to the rockets remain, but now it's competitive as you try to save more than your foes. Throw in Capus that will instead wipe out a large number of saved mice if they make it into your rocket instead of a game over, and mixed with all sorts of forever adjusting variables like speed and the amount of Capus, and you get fun, but very unpredictable gameplay. You could be killing it for the entire match, only to lose it all towards the end because of unfortunate circumstances. I could very easily lose friends from playing this, if I had any. This would have gone off online back in the day, and on that note, the online component of ChuChu Rocket needs to be mentioned. While any trace of official servers disappeared with new metal, there are private servers to be found by God knows what means. I'm guessing something to do with an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi, who knows? Either way, there were all sorts of features in the online mode, like chat and downloading of levels. My copy is actually European, since I bought it in France a millennia ago, when international travel was a yes rather than a big no. I only paid €3 for this bad boy too. Score. The upshot of that is in my copy, the internet portion is in French. La French internet. Obviously, I can't do much without connecting the 56k modem, but you get to see a preview of what it was like. There's the Dream Arena itself, a browser, email client, a forum, as well as a host of internet configuration options. This would have been absolutely sick on a Sony Trinitron circa 2000 or 2001. Too bad I was too much of a stupid 7-year-old at the time to experience it. Because of ChuChu Rocket's experimental nature, the graphics aren't going to blow anyone away. Well, it might, and good for you if it does, but remember, one of the initial goals of development was to see how many instances of a ChuChu could animate on screen at once. It appears they succeeded well there, as I never experienced any slowdown. I also enjoyed the animations on the VMU through gameplay. Again, nothing special, but I always enjoyed this aspect of the Dreamcast. It just gives that damn little white box so much charm. And again, with the sound, nothing to write home about, but it's functional and Japanesey enough to fit the frantic nature of the multiplayer, or alternatively, the tea-sipping scenarios of the puzzle mode. I did notice issues with playback, however. After an elongated period of playing, the music would start to skip and eventually stop altogether. I'm not sure if this is an issue with the game itself, my disc, or even my Dreamcast. I'm looking forward to deep diving into the console shortly, so fingers crossed it's not the laser dying on me. ChuChu Rocket has largely been forgotten by Sega, but it did receive a port on the Game Boy Advance. Notably, it was the very first Sega published game on Nintendo hardware, so stick that in your pipe and smoke it. It also featured something ridiculous like 2,500 puzzles, a large portion of those stemming from user-submitted levels through the Dreamcast network. Isn't that nice? There were ports released to iOS and Android around 2010, as was the style at the time. But as per the tradition of licensed smartphone games from a decade ago, these are delisted for who knows what reason. However, there was a new entry to the series in 2019 called ChuChu Rocket Universe, that was, and still is, exclusive to Apple Arcade. Ugh. I make a point of having nothing to do with Apple's walled garden, so I was disappointed to hear it was exclusive. So, how do we see out this inaugural VGA Dreamcast episode of Retro Game On? Well, how about some honesty? After 2 or 3 hours of play, I got a bit bored. For obvious reasons, I'm excluding multiplayer from this statement, but the puzzles just don't have staying power. This is coming from a big fan of puzzle games too. But I will say this, I originally played through this game about 10 years ago when I first bought it in the town of Amboise in central France. Just around the corner from where Leonardo da Vinci carked it actually. I don't usually review games I've already played in case nostalgia affects the integrity of the review, but I'll give this a pass since I last played it when I was an adult, and that is kind of the point. I came back. Yes, I got a bit bored, but this game has obviously been bouncing around that empty skull of mine since then, and that means something. So, I'll end on this. ChuChu Rocket is a historical game, a fun game, and something very different, memorable. If you own a Dreamcast, this is a must for your collection.